It is the week between Christmas and New Year's, which means that this is the week that we set everything up so that 2026, the new year, is a success. And as a type A eldest daughter, these are the things that I'm thinking about. First, I do a big 2025 review. So everything that I did in the past year that I'm really proud of, I do like a big KPI check, which for me just means figuring out like how much money I made, where all that money sits. Also, as a content creator, I'm looking at like how many followers did I gain over the past year, really doing a deep dive into the numbers and analytics to better understand like where I'm getting the most bang for my buck in terms of like content creation and what's working and what's not working. For bookkeeping and just understanding like my financial situation, I use Quicken. My bookkeeper would prefer that I use QuickBooks because that's like the favorite of all accountants, but it's a little bit more expensive and I like that Quicken is just like super simple. After I finish my 2025 year review, I then start to look at 2026. I look at like my really big goals and I just try to understand like what are the key moments that I need to design my next year around. So for me, that's like big trips that I want to go on, like big launch moments. Like, so for like running August, I'm thinking about, okay, this month we're launching in this big store. So I want to be in New York to really focus on that with the team. I'm thinking about big goals in terms of like what I want to be making financially now with marathons and running races as a really big part of like my love. I'm also thinking about key races I want to run. So like I really want to run the New York City Marathon again in 2026. So like let's make sure that for that week I'm here in New York. I would love to run the Paris Marathon. I have no bib for that yet, but I have like booked that week to make sure. Coachella weekend 1. So I go through like all of the big things that I want to do in 2026 that I don't want to schedule anything over. And then my big goals, whether that be financial or personal, like 2026 is the year that I'm getting married. So June, I'm going to be like very occupied with all wedding things. In terms of format of how I look at these goals, I just use like a written Google Doc. I do eventually do more of like a fun vision boarding thing, but I do that as like a fun side thing later on. This like goals is just very tactical, like literally putting into a Google Calendar or writing it out into a Google Doc. Once I have that big list of goals, I then literally go month by month, and I usually do this with my sisters because we love to travel together. And so we will literally look at January and then February, look at the full month and look at what trips we already have planned or what trips we need to plan. And if there are any like flights or hotels that we need to book, we will then like book them right then and there, add it to like a collective to-do list. Or we did this a couple nights ago, and like one thing that we had to flag was we need to make sure that the dogs all have dog sitters for when we go on these trips. So the month by month, like figuring out like what every single travel schedule looks like is a really big one. If travel is not so much of what you're scheduling your life around, I also just do it around like very key moments. Like I'm looking at January. These are like the 3